This program is made possible by annual financial support from viewers like you.
I raised my hand. She walked forward, and she said, "Captain Peacock, are you P?" And it's the sort of face that can look pompous very easily. You know? Dollar signs lit up in my eyes. This annoyed Mrs. Slocum so much that she's been told off, you see.
I'm Dara Wells. Recently, I had the distinct honor of interviewing a true British gentleman, Mr. Frank Thornton, better known as Captain Peacock, the chief floor walker at Grace Brothers department store. I sat down with the captain and a few hundred of his loyal fans. We are so pleased to have with us Captain Peacock of Are You Being Served? He is, of course, the wonderful Frank Thornton. Welcome, and thank you for being here tonight. This is really a pleasure. Oh, thank you. Now, why are you Captain Peacock?
Ah, yes. This was, I think, quite a clever move in the writing, because only senior officers in the regular army, I think it is major and upwards, may use their rank on retirement. Things like generals, colonels, maybe. Now, we sort of assume that Captain Peacock had been, he had been in the army during the war, because I'm old enough, God knows. And we assumed that he was in a very minor capacity and had managed to climb up to the rank of captain. And then, like all of us, afterwards, was demobbed, got himself a job in this store, and rose to the exalted position of floor manager. Floor walker, I beg your pardon, floor walker. And just in order to give himself, as he thought, prestige in front of everybody else, he insisted on being known as captain instead of Mr., which, in a subtle way, sort of just showed you what a pompous idiot he was. As Miss Brown called it, said, he's a pompous twit.
What is it like to be recognized by the public? Are you recognized as Captain Peacock or as Frank Thornton?
Oh yes. Quite often I've had, come on, Captain, give us a smile. This is because my face generally just sort of falls into a fairly lugubrious. You know, I don't go around smiling all the time. And even without the moustache and with my glasses, they still recognize me. And and occasionally people make mistakes, because a cabbie leaned out of a cab once and said, "Yes, Prime Minister." I said, "No."
How did they find you? You seem so perfect for that role.
Well, I think the thing is, you see, David Croft, who is half of the writing team, Jeremy Lloyd and David Croft. David Croft was also a BBC producer. And all of us in the team of this had worked for him before at one time or another. So he knew our work, and he was a very perceptive producer and caster. He might not use you for 10 years, then suddenly you were the right one, he wanted you. So that when, I'm sure everybody else felt as I did, when this was offered to me, I thought, oh yes, that's a part I could play.
Immediately, you saw the role and you envisioned yourself in it.
This is good. I mean, it was only a pilot. We were just offered 1 week's work as a pilot. But I'm sure we all accepted it because, A, we trusted David, and the script was there and was good anyway. So we all did the pilot, and got on very well as a bunch of actors, because again, we all knew one another's work.
What is your relationship like with those cast members, and did you play practical jokes on each other?
No, I don't. No,
Come on.
No. You see, comedy is a very serious business. Comedy is a very serious business. And you see, for each episode, you only have a week's rehearsal. And you've got to get it right. You've got to get it running smoothly in a week's time. So, you work very hard and very concentrated. I remember there was one time, see, if you remember, Captain Peacock was very pompous. Very pompous.
So much like you.
Of course. Absolutely. And there came a time when he had to, in one episode, and remember, we do this show before a live audience. So you're there, seeing the show as we film it. And on this occasion, Captain Peacock was getting very like this with Mrs. Slocum, who wanted to speak to him. So she sort of went, "Hey, Miss..." And I said, "Mrs. Slocum, if you wish to speak to me, you will look in my direction. And if I raise my hand, you will then approach me and say, 'Captain Peacock, are you free?'" Now, this annoyed Mrs. Slocum so much that she's been told off, you see. So she goes back to her place, and she comes forward. So we go through I raise my hand. She walks forward, and she said, "Captain Freacock, are you P?" And Mrs. Slocum's anger dissolved into Molly Sugden in a terrible fit of giggles. And I broke up a bit, so I'm pretty good. So then, of course, we tried to do it again. We retake, stop, cut, do it again. So she comes, "Captain," breaks up again. About the third time, she breaks up. Then the fourth time, she gets it right. Gets the line right, no smiles, no giggles, no nothing. The audience by now thinks, "Oh, she's done it right!" And they all applaud. So we had to stop again, say to the audience, "We're terribly sorry, but please, don't applaud, don't laugh, it's not fun, it's just an ordinary line. Now, Molly, can you do it a fifth time?"
All right. Other than that improvisation, did you have much input into the script?
Not a great deal, because, again, we trusted that they were such experienced writers, and they knew us, and, of course, as the series goes on, they get to know you better. They get to know what you can do, what fits, what doesn't fit. So the parts, as it were, fitted us like gloves. And, but if the odd idea occurred to us, we would improvise, we would put in an ad-lib gag maybe during rehearsal. Mm-hmm. But then, you see, the writers and the producer, David, they were always there. So David, who was a small man, very quiet, he didn't laugh out loud much, but he would say, "Keep it in," or "No, cut it out." So that meant that anything we had to contribute by way of a bit of business or a line, that was all done fairly early in rehearsal. So by the time you got to the transmission, the camera script was all clean and clear, because they had to know where to point the cameras. Yeah. So it's no use you're saying something funny when the camera's not looking at you. So by the time you come to do the show, everything is absolutely, well rehearsed and set.
Were you surprised at the success of the show, not only in England, but in America? I mean, you saw the standing ovation you got when you came here?
We are still knocked sideways by the reception of this show has got in the States. You see, because for a long time, you must remember that we in England are fed on Hollywood. So in the main, it might be said that we possibly know you better than you know us. And because you used not to get, you hardly got any of our films, you know. And with comedy particularly, you've got to know the background of comedy to appreciate it, you know. Because if you don't know what the comedian's talking about, it's not funny. For a long time it was thought that it's no use sending British comedy to the States. They won't understand it. But what people forgot about Are You Being Served was the incredible simplicity of the basic formula. It's a shop. And everybody does shops. We either work it behind the counter or we meet them across the counter. Everybody knows shops. So this gave our show such a universality that hardly anything has to be explained to you. It's all there. I mean, a few years ago, my wife, we went into Bergdorf Goodman in New York City, and a Mrs. Slocum came up the surface. She really was.
Was it hard to re-enter the character for Are You Being Served Again? Or does he fit like an old glove?
Yes, it was quite extraordinary because, as I say, we finished the show in '84, and then we came together to do Are You Being Served Again in 1991. So that's the arithmetic, 7 years. And it was just like, hello, right, good morning, off again. As if there'd been no pause at all. It was straight back into it, and there we were.
So the chemistry was still good.
Oh, the chemistry was still there. And, of course, but the situation was new. We hadn't got the whole of the old team back. And we had two basic new ones, which were the old fireman, old Morris Moultard. And alas, I have to tell you that dear Billy Burden, who played Morris Moultard, has died. So if they ever decided to revive it, you won't alas see Morris Moultard. And his beautiful little daughter, Claire Bennett. And so they were sort of the new characters, and the bossy little brunette girl that Captain Peacock fancied, rather.
Oh, yes. You said it was easy getting back into that role. How is he different from you, and how is he similar?
Oh! Well, it's a strange sort of thing, acting, because particularly on camera, you want to use as much of yourself as possible. You know, you mustn't play too far out of your age range or in an unfamiliar dialect, you know. Too much thick acting. The camera, that eye there, and that microphone, they're like lasers, and they pick up any falsehood. My appearance, all right, I'm tall, therefore I can look down my nose, you see, and it's the sort of face that can look pompous very easily, you know. So you might say it is, with any luck, it is a distortion of you. Molly Sugden, you see, is a very pretty woman. She said, I've got little fat legs, you know. She used to worry about her little fat legs. But she's a very, very pretty woman. But she can also, you don't push Molly around, you know, she can get quite, if necessary. See? So that can translate into Mrs. Slocum, you know, being a bit bossy, like that. And also, Molly comes from Yorkshire. Now, up in Yorkshire, they got an accent rather like that, you see. They talk like that. And they use the flat A the same way you do, chants and dance and things like that, you see. So that's a Yorkshire accent. My granddad came from Yorkshire, but I'm London. Now, you see, Molly comes from Yorkshire, so this enabled her, when she's playing Mrs. Slocum, to talk basically in her own accent, but Mrs. Slocum trying to be posh. So you get Mrs. Slocum trying to be posh, all like that, you know. You see. So, as I said, she's using herself, using everything she can do, but extending it into comedy. Because all the characters, basically, if you think of any comedy, most characters in comedy are idiots. That's why you laugh at them. Because it makes you feel superior. Gives you a nice warm feeling. You're watching these idiots up there. You think, I'm much more intelligent than they are.
Cheers, for example, is unashamedly American. So is Seinfeld. Do the British see those comedy shows, and do they work over there? Have you seen them?
No, I haven't. I know Cheers is seen over there. Well, again, a perfect illustration of what I have to say is that Golden Girls is a great success. You know, we love it. Great success in England. They made the mistake last year of trying to make a British version of it with 4 very well-known actresses, and they called it the Brighton Bells. It was dreadful. It was hopeless, and they took it off.
Really?
You know, Golden Girls is frankly American. We are Americans, and we love it. It works the other way, inasmuch as several years ago, they decided that they wanted to make an American version of Are You Being Served? Oh, yeah, this was before we came over. They wanted to make their own version. And very funny. They said, we can cast most of the other parts, but that toffee-nosed floor walker guy, we got nobody in Hollywood. Can we get the limey actor over? So they wanted me to come over. Dollar signs lit up in my eyes. Hey, a Hollywood contract. Way! The Screen Actors Guild wouldn't let me in.
Is that right?
So they had to go ahead with an American actor, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
But of course, lots of pilots don't work, you see. But again, it's essentially an English show. But that's why you like it. It is different. It's foreign.
How did you start in acting?
Very, very young. So I started to earn my living as an insurance clerk, or clerk. And I managed to get out of that after a couple of years, went to drama school. And I eventually, by now the war had started, and I answered an advertisement, and I got the job, so that my career started on April Fool's Day, significant, 1940, in the Confraternity Hall, Turles, County Tipperary, in the Republic of Ireland, outside the BBC television. I've done everything, musicals, Shakespeare, the lot. For the BBC, they consider me situation comedy only. So I hardly ever worked for the drama department. I worked for the drama departments of other companies. Shaw, Shakespeare, all sorts of things. Until a maverick gentleman named Jonathan Miller, you may have heard of him, who took on the what we call the Bardathon. The BBC were doing all the Shakespeare plays, all of them. And Jonathan Miller was brought in as producer. And much against the sort of established tradition of the BBC, he brought in John Cleese to play Petruchio in The Taming of the Shrew. Imagine that.
And what did you
Basil Fawlty as Petruchio. But he was very good. He was very good. And I was also, I played Romeo. So Captain Peacock and Basil Fawlty played Shakespeare.
And who was your co-star in Winnie the Pooh? Was that a musical that you sang in? What was Winnie the Pooh?
This was a Christmas show in the theatre. A children's show. They put it on several years running at the Phoenix Theatre in London. It was a dramatized version with music of Winnie the Pooh, which you probably all familiar from the Disney cartoon version.
Well, yeah.
And I was asked to go in and play the part of Eeyore. And my wife and daughter said, well, you won't need any makeup or acting, that's you.
Oh. Right.
And I must say, I enjoyed playing Eeyore because I tend to be a bit lugubrious myself at times, you know.
How long have you been married?
Well, June the 5th of next year, we celebrate our golden wedding.
50 years?
We met in 1941 in Don Wolfett's Shakespearean Company. Then we were married, obviously, in 1945 when I was in the Air Force. And she's still there, poor girl.
Last question. How would Captain Peacock sum up the career of Frank Thornton?
Probably I've never heard of him.
I can't top that, so I will just end by saying thank you so much for being with us tonight. You are a pleasure.
Thank you.